Hey, so in this video, what I want to do is walk you through something that I am now calling the dad funnel momentarily, right? I've released the video on the Modern Maker model. Today, I want to show you like the ins and outs of how that all works. So this is the master dad funnel. Why? Because since my daughter, Little Miss N, was born, and this is the funnel that sort of works while I live, that allows me to sort of work 3 days a week and serve currently 200 clients. So the engine that turns leads to customers to clients daily. So before we get started, I just wanted to show some proof. Our accountants and stuff were doing the accounts this summer. So this is a statement showing that July 31st, there was 600k euros in this account, and then there was another 53k or so in euros this August, because there's multiple accounts. So this dad funnel, or the Modern Maker model, has done just shy of 700k as we speak this year. And then we've got a bunch of case studies from, ghostwriters, Instagram coaches, recruiters, all sorts of niches that have implemented either the entire funnel in its full spectrum or parts of it. So Mike over here did 217k, George added 84 customers, Voy had a 40k launch, Nick had an 100k year, Charlotte had a 27k campaign and then had a 10k day. This is Nick with his low ticket offers sparking up. Aditi had 48 signups in her mid-ticket offer. Mitch did about 15k in recurring revenue. Ashley had 15k launches. And then there's like Joe giving signs of appreciation here, and Nigel doing a 62k month. Most of this is on my LinkedIn feed as well in the recommendations, but I just pulled a few there. If this sounds or looks good at any given point, you can always DM me the keyword M3 on Instagram at most_mojo, and it will send you a bunch of details of what working together can look like. So now that we got this out of the way, let's get doodling, right? Let's get to the fun part. So before I show you the dad funnel, basically, when I was running an agency, I just wanted to share that I had an offer portfolio, right? There was a whole bunch of stuff that I had in terms of offers, right? We had like web design and branding and email marketing and SEO and this and that. So they were different standalone offers that had no leverage, and I had to scale a team in order to maintain them. And then when I figured out how to do the proximity offer, that basically means you have one offer with multiple tiers of access, which gives you leverage because you are monetizing access, not different types of offers. Now, why do I tell you that? Simply because the proximity offer is the first part of the dad funnel, right? So the proximity offer, anybody that comes my way in the case studies you've seen, mostly we grab their service and we productize it, right? So why? Because Google Docs give you the ability to sell without having to do sales calls, because we get a series of easy yeses. So at the core of it, if we take any business coach, mindset coach, or service provider, whoever, you have assets that you can recycle because you are using them to essentially, service your clients. So it could be a workshop, could be a Loom video, could be whatever. And what we do in the proximity offer, if I just take myself, for example, I ran a workshop, so that's an asset, and I can sell it for $100, right? That same workshop I'm doing every Tuesday is for my community, right? So I can then invite people in there, and the community gets a weekly call. So that is the first layer of proximity. Now there's people in that community, out of the 200 per se, there's about 30 or 40 of them who want more Discord chat. So that's closer proximity. So I double up the price, and I always do it weekly because it's easier, again, to say yes, right? And everything's a series of easy yeses. So that's that. And then, for example, the last tier is one-on-one. So I always go, let's say, 100 a week, 200 a week, 500 a week, and so on and so forth. So when we package that, the first part of the funnel is creating or grabbing what you already have and turning that into a proximity offer to productize your service. And the premise of a Google Doc offer is having a clear promise, right? That's tangible and finger pointable, then a 3-step plan so people can future pace themselves in it, and then pricing in the context of the present pain. And I sort of reverse funnels because a lot of people are like, oh, let's get traffic to some sort of engine and then make an offer. For me, the offer is number one, because without understanding your offer, then you don't know what you're selling, and the engine can't work, and the traffic is probably going to burn you money, right? So now that we've understood the premise of that, one thing I do, I've labeled it 1B here, is I always give people as part of the funnel, before we even start, we check the tech stack. Usually it's like emails and checkout pages. A lot of people who come my way either spend too much with the tools they have, or they don't actually know which ones are better. I use Kit for email and Thrivecart for checkout pages, simply because they're simple to use, right? So I can drop some of those links in the comments below. So we check the stack, we make sure it's simple and lean, and then I give them a cash campaign so they can run it to their existing list for a quick win and offer validation. That cash campaign is one that drove $854K in profit since 2023 for me, and it's a set of like 9 emails that I give to people. They're known to convert, but there's people who don't have an email list or have a small one, and what I do is I give them some DM scripts so they can send them to 10 people, and the goal is to close 3, right? So that's that. And over time I developed a little cash campaign GPT that essentially does all the hard work, right? And then it prompts you with some questions, and the same goes for docs. In the past, I had to sit through 60 minutes of a call, or somebody watch a training, right? And then we'd go back and forth for 2 to 3 days after to make sure we got it. So I sort of downloaded that instance of my thinking and my best performing docs into Iggy, the invite doc wizard, I call them. And what Iggy does is produces the document to that caliber in like 4 or 5 minutes. Again, the premise of that is once you install steps 1 and 2 here, you want to be in your creator throne, right? There's a bad doodle here of a crown. So all you have to do is pretty much create, like write posts or shoot little videos, and the funnel takes care of itself. So that's part 1 of the funnel, the proximity offer. Now, here's my favorite part. So what you see over here is the micro snack cartel. Everything in yellow is the mini micro snack cartel. Why? Because those are the foundations. The rest are just me geeking out and giving you the full advanced version. But if we look at this for a moment, micro snack cartel stems from Pablo Escobar when I watched it on Netflix, because he gave people little snacks and then sold them the big snacks. So before we get into what that looks like, I always have an opt-in page with one big idea. You can sort of see what mine is at jacobpegs.xyz. It's a catchy hook, bit of a line of text or two, and then give me your name and give me your email. Basically, that's an opt-in. So that's stage 1 of the micro snack cartel. Now, as the page turns, instead of having a lead magnet, I call these basically pre-sell magnets, because a lot of people just collect freebie seekers, but a pre-sell magnet collects buyers. So what we want to do here is have 2 assets, and I learned this the hard way through time and time again, where these assets pre-sell your buyer into turning from a lead to a customer, essentially. So what I did is, in yellow, an indoctrination video. It's not a VSL, but essentially when you meet someone for the first time, what you want to do is take them from cold to sold as fast as possible by preheating the oven, right? Instead of waiting for decades for them to get warmed up on your email list. So an indoctrination video does exactly what it should do, right? Indoctrinate someone in your universe. That's sort of the model video in my case, which I'll drop in the comments below. But essentially, when you tell your story, that builds resonance. And when you tell your model, that builds relevance. So that could be a 15 to 30 minute video where 15 minutes I'm talking about my story and who I am. And then 15 minutes I'm talking about my model. And then what happens is somebody opted in, they got my pre-sale magnet, and then they were tagged, and the master sequence triggers. So what I do is I take the same thing you just watched, and then I say, welcome. In my world, it's like a video with my dogs where I'm like, hey, look, all my pets are on the couch, like 3 dogs, 3 cats, and I'm so stoked to have you here. Then the next day, there's a story email, a model video, and then a results, like case study. So those 4 videos, main purpose is to sell you something for $9, to turn you from a lead to a customer, right? So, so far so good. Awesome. Now, I take that indoctrination video and I write it out as well in an ebook. And that is optional. Again, that's like if you want a second lead magnet, because some people just consume books, but and a lot of people download PDFs and buy books, right? It's in our nature. So I just take that, create an ebook, and I'll drop both of these down below. So big idea opt-in. In my world, it's like, no need to take sales calls because you can use Google Docs, and then watch the indoctrination video. You are now tagged, and the master sequence triggers. You have 4 of these emails. The beautiful part of this is you've now seen 2 doors, the ebook and the indoctrination video. You might have 3, 4, 5, 6 different doors that all lead to the same living room over here, right? So you're still going to get the master sequence, and it's such a beautiful thing. Mine's been live since like 2023. So as soon as you are given your pre-sale magnet, on the bottom of that, I have essentially a checkout page or a sales page. And what I'm doing is creating giving you the snack, right? Saying, I've just given you some pre-sale magnet, now I'm going to offer you something. And that can also have order bumps, and it can have, bigger snacks or upsells, if you want to call them that. But essentially, it's an asset that you have, and then supporting assets. So if you look over here, for $9 on the front end, that's the main thing you're selling to try to get someone into your world. And for me, these assets should be a straight line between what they're buying and your core offer, right? Your proximity offer that we made. If it's not a straight line, I've seen so many people fail by giving like prompts or templates and then trying to sell something completely different that doesn't make any sense. So if that thing you're selling can be a straight line between, or the first step out of many other steps of your core program, it works really, really well. So that's the micro snack cartel sort of visually. But what I've done here in red is I've shown you there's the front end offer and then the 2 order bumps. So essentially what you're doing is cycling through problem, solution, problem, solution. What I'm doing is saying, grab my Google Doc, right, to solve your sales call problem. And then the bump is, email templates. Don't you want emails to send so people can respond and you can give them your doc offer? And then they go, yeah, but that creates another problem, which is I don't have content to fill my email list. So problem, solution, problem, solution. And then I sell a one-time order, which is basically I'm selling speed in this case. So I've created 4 GPTs that basically do all of these things so you don't have to do them. So you see how I'm stacking problem, solution, problem, solution. And then the final tier for me is offering support, right? Going, if you want me to coach you and hold you accountable. So it's all of those on the front end, then selling speed and selling support. And if somebody doesn't answer, you can put them in an abandoned cart sequence. Or if somebody buys 50 to 60% of the goods, you can put them in a thank you next campaign. Essentially, hey, thank you for buying product A, here's product B. And then You've turned a lead to a customer, and in this tier, a customer to a client. And this is all automated once it's set up once, right? And then finally over here, once that sequence is done, or your master sequence is done, you just get a daily email. In my world, if you become a client, I have this entire onboarding flow, which I won't show here, but I can show in another video. And then what I've done for my clients essentially here is I have created a bunch of GPTs over there that speed up the process. So if somebody wants to write a sales page, there's a GPT. There's also one for order bumps, for upsells, for master sequences, for creating an ebook, for your indoctrination video. Then there's Wally the Whatbot. He's my favorite. He writes emails for you if you want. And then I basically cover all of those and give people 516 of my emails since 2023 for inspiration. But that's part of the dad funnel too. So I love creating GPTs to solve problems because speed is where it's at in today's market. So that's the micro snack cartel. And then the third component of what we are doing is traffic flow, right? So we've got one offer, one email, and then now we've got one post. And the way this works in my world is we basically want to do this thing here called dog whistling, right? We don't want to broadly write posts. We want to be specific, right? So if I say, do you want to get leads? Everyone puts their hand up. But if I say, I help business coaches making between 10 to 30K a month get leads through email funnels, only very few select people are putting their hand up. So that's what dog whistling is. A lot of people just throw spaghetti on a wall and create content and then wonder why there's no context or why they're not feeling heard or understood. So that's sort of the first thing we do in the dad funnel is make sure we dog whistle. And then there's organic and paid acquisition. In my world, I use LinkedIn, which I've grown to 50K followers, and then recently Instagram, because I run low cost $5 a day sort of ads. So the main fundamental thing for me in the traffic flow part of the funnel is to understand the difference between brand and campaigns, right? So when we write content, I can sit here and sell you all of this crazy stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it's super simple. When we look at it, it's writing content about who we are. So that's sharing our hobbies, sharing our values, our philosophies, our beliefs. That's who we are, right? Like I'm wearing a Super Mario t-shirt today, right? So that says who I am, or a little bit more. I've told you about my daughter. You can see the guitars behind me. So my share content shows that I'm a dad who loves music and running and all of that. And I believe you can do things, close clients without sales calls and so on and so forth. So who you are should be about like 20 to 30% of your content. And then what you do is the rest, right? Like 70 to 80%. And essentially what you're doing with what you're doing content is you're showing, you're demonstrating. You're going back in time and collecting what you did last week, last month, 6 months ago. Ideally the more recent ones, because instead of creating, you just collect things that already happened from your proximity offer, right? So it makes content easy because you're just providing insights from your lived experience, not boring educational AI driven stuff, right? And 2-3 times a week, you have a PS that says, if you want to see how outcome, then here's this opt-in page, right? And that's your indoctrination video or your ebook, which takes them into the engine, right? So super simple to do that sort of organic traffic flow. And then the other side is paid acquisition, which I've recently dabbled into on Instagram with little ads. Essentially what I'm doing is I've created a little helicopter pad, which means the 3 pinned posts on my Instagram again try to pre-sell someone, right? By preheating or microwaving them because cold acquisition is different, right? They've never met you, so you got to warm them up. And I found that the helicopter pad is before we take off, or when they land, what do they see? A story. So I've got my first pinned post is a story. You can also see that on most_mojo. You can see all of that. But we've got a story, then I've got a case study of some sort, and then I'm basically showing a process because we want to, again, do what I said over here. Who I am, content shows resonance, and then what I do type of content shows relevance. And that's exactly what this does. This is for resonance, these are for relevance. And then basically with paid acquisition, I'm using something called the hook story offer framework from Russell Brunson. I didn't invent it, but you have a hook, you tell a story, and you make an offer. Thankfully on Instagram, there's something called ManyChat, which handles these keywords off the back of that. If you use the word roadmap on mine or playbook, you should be able to get the lead magnets I mentioned earlier, right? So you can test that on my Instagram, you'll see ManyChat. But what I do in my stories is I run $5 to $10 ads, right, on a creative that worked really well organically, so it's not rocket science. And then every day I do a story on Instagram because that's your warmest crowd. And it is basically for my pre-selling magnets, right? Roadmap and playbook are the keywords on stories. There's another keyword for low ticket offers. And then I do a share post. So I'm showing my dog. I'm currently running a marathon in January with my dog Coconut. So I'm documenting that, no call to action, but that's my share content. Or I might show little feet pics of my daughter, or me playing music, or, me out and about with my wife and my family. So share content has no CTA, and then the pre-selling magnet and the low ticket offer has a CTA. The difference between those two is my low ticket ads are campaigns. So if I decide not to post, I know that my ads are essentially bringing in leads all the time into my micro snack cartel, and they're getting my offer, right? And because those have the order bumps and the upsells and all of that, they basically pay for themselves, and I'm in profit, which means I'm growing my email list for free with buyers, right? So that's that. And then the other side of it is me doing content to basically keep updating my brand. So I can say whatever the hell I want, right? On social media, and I can just be myself at the intersection of sharing and showing daily, but I'm not as fussed anymore because that bit of content organically is building my brand, and the campaigns are basically doing leads, customers, and clients for me. So that's the traffic flow part of the dad funnel. So quick recap, what did we do? We spoke about Google Docs and proximity offers as part of the funnel. I showed you the micro snack cartel, or the mini version. So we start with a mini version, and then as the funnel grows, we can get results and stack little components on top of it. And then we spoke about organic traffic and then low cost ads. I didn't talk about remarketing. That's an entirely different channel. And then post that, I didn't talk about onboarding, which I may do another video on if that's cool. So that summarizes the dad funnel, or how we turn leads to customers to clients, and build a system that works while we live, with one offer, one email, one post daily. So, if you have any questions, you can throw them down below. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.